Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's dive into this because today we're breaking down a truly fascinating analysis of the meticulously engineered systems that are quietly, and I mean quietly, draining our wealth. We're not talking about massive, glaring financial mistakes here. No, it's about the tiny, almost invisible daily habits that literally steal life-changing sums of money right out from under us. The invisible $2.8 million trap. So picture this, right? It's a Wednesday night. You're lying in bed. Your phone is hovering maybe 6 inches from your face. You weren't planning to buy anything at all. You were literally just scrolling. But then an ad pops up, and it's perfectly targeted. You tap it. Your address? Already saved. The credit card? Yep, already saved. The whole transaction takes less time than brushing your teeth. Boom. $41 just gone. You set the phone down, fall asleep in 10 minutes, and completely forget about the whole thing until a random box mysteriously shows up on your doorstep like 4 days later. Now, that exact moment repeated over and over again is the absolute core of what we're unpacking today: overconsumption. We're talking about the steady, totally frictionless, barely conscious accumulation of stuff you didn't deliberately wake up deciding to buy. Listen, we aren't talking about a catastrophic gambling habit here or, buying a luxury yacht you definitely can't afford. We're talking about the incredibly stealthy nature of modern spending. Get this, the average American makes nearly 10 impulse buys a month. 10! And that quietly balloons to a staggering $3,381 a year. It doesn't announce itself at all. It feels like absolutely nothing while it's actually happening. The source material breaks this whole thing down into 4 massive channels of overconsumption, and each one wears its own brilliant little disguise. You've got impulse and social buys, which are masked by those frictionless one-tap checkouts. Then there's subscriptions, basically disguised by our own human forgetfulness. Next is convenience premiums, think food delivery, that just feel like paying for a slightly more expensive meal. And finally, emotional retail therapy, which just gives you a quick, temporary dopamine hit. But the ultimate disguise across all of these? Fragmentation. It splits the cost up so small that it all just feels like completely normal everyday life. Now, what's really interesting about this is the massive gap between perception and reality. When surveyed, the average American actually thinks they spend about $86 a month on subscriptions, but the actual number? It's $219 a month, spread across an average of 8 active services. Think about that. That is a $133 monthly gap where overconsumption is just hiding in plain sight. It's that app that auto-renewed, the streaming service you totally forgot about, or maybe the premium tier of something you don't even use anymore. Let's look at how just one of these channels compounds over time. Take the food delivery and convenience channel, for instance. Let's say you order delivery 3 times a week, right? And you pay a $15 premium for the service fees and the tip. So not even the actual food, just the premium for the convenience of not having to, put on real pants and drive. Well, if you invested that money instead at an 8% return over 25 years, it compounds to roughly $168,000. Think about that for a second. The convenience of not cooking is literally costing you a 6-figure sum. Let's take it a step further and see how this builds when we factor in those forgotten subscriptions. Remember that $219 a month we just looked at? If you redirected that exact amount into an investment with an 8% return over a 30-year working life, it compounds to approximately $326,000. No joke. You are looking at $350,000 vanishing into services you might not even be able to name right now. So, when we add up all these channels together, the impulse buys, the convenience upgrades, subscriptions, the totally realistic figure for an average household's overconsumption is about $10,000 a year. And here is the absolute gut punch. $10,000 a year redirected into investments over a 40-year career doesn't just equal $400,000 in saved cash. With compound interest, it explodes to $2.8 million. Overconsumption doesn't just cost you what you spend today, it literally steals $2.8 million from your future self. The core thesis of this entire analysis is that this type of spending is deeply, deeply invisible. I mean, if the full annual cost of your overconsumption arrived as a single giant bill in the mail, almost nobody would pay it. But it doesn't arrive like that. $1 million spent $16 at a time doesn't feel like $1 million. It just feels like Tuesday. It arrives in tiny, fragmented pieces all year long. And here is where we really have to shift the narrative to expose the real enemy here. Because guys, this is a completely asymmetrical battle. You are not in a fair fight. Willpower is finite. By the end of a long day, your willpower is essentially running on fumes. And on the other side of your screen, There's an entire industry that spends billions of dollars to catch you exactly when your defenses are down. The whole system is explicitly engineered to bypass your willpower entirely. The architecture of modern spending is just incredibly deliberate. Social media algorithms don't just guess, they target your specific vulnerabilities based on your exact behavior. One-tap checkouts are designed to completely delete the friction of physically handing over cash. Programs like Buy Now, Pay Later, they mask the true cost of items by breaking them into smaller, deceiving chunks. Subscriptions rely completely on the psychology of forgetting. An infinite inventory meets you right in your bed. In fact, research shows that 43% of people are most likely to spend impulsively while literally lying in bed shopping. Just let that sink in. The friction that used to protect previous generations has just been systematically deleted. So, the crucial point is, what does this actually look like in practice? Well, let's look at Tamara. She's a 36-year-old marketing coordinator earning $68,000 a year. By all external measures, she's super responsible. She pays her bills on time, contributes to a 401k, and has no dramatic vices. But her savings never seem to grow. Without even knowing it, Tamara is leaking almost $12,000 a year. She is quietly spending her way out of a seven-figure retirement. When Tamara actually sat down and tracked her spending for 30 days, she found $390 bleeding out to impulse ads and another $240 on just food delivery premiums. Add in $190 on forgotten subscriptions and $160 on quick coffee stops, and it totaled $980 a month. And here's the thing, Tamara wasn't being reckless, she was just average. But that $980 a month, compounded over her working life, was silently stealing $1.1 million from her future. So how do you actually fight back against a system like this? Well, Tamara didn't try to rely on pure willpower, and she definitely didn't take a vow of poverty. She simply built friction back into her life using 3 structural steps. First, she deleted her shopping apps and removed her saved payment cards, meaning she'd have to physically get up and manually type the numbers in. Second, she audited and immediately canceled all her unused subscriptions. And third, she implemented a strict 24-hour waiting rule for literally anything over $30. You'd be amazed. Most impulse desires just evaporate within a day if you simply force a pause. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate takeaway here, the sheer power of simply seeing the truth. Awareness itself changes behavior. Once you finally turn on the lights, the engineered system just loses its power over you. By making just those 3 structural changes, Tamara recovered about $600 a month. Redirecting that $600 into an investment rebuilt $680,000 of her retirement. She didn't have to change her personality. Actually, she just changed her environment and faced the real numbers. Now, the math of your daily habits is compounding right now, whether you are actively looking at it or not. This invisible trap relies entirely on you staying in the dark, just guessing and estimating. So, I have to ask, what is your real number? It is time to stop estimating and run your own audit. Turn the lights on, put that friction back between yourself and the buy button, and take back control of your wealth. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and seriously, I highly encourage you to go find your number today.